Which means it's time for Sports and the Law, and our favorite lawyer, Steve Moskowitz, in the house here on the Happy Hour, as he is always on Thursday. Now, last week at this time, you talked about Urban Meyer and the trouble he's in at Ohio State. Well, the day after we spoke, Urban Meyer changed course and basically backtracked on what he had said over the 2015 domestic violence incidents between one of his assistant coaches, now former, and his wife. And he basically said, I did know, I did report it to the proper channels at Ohio State, but I wasn't prepared to speak on it at the Big Ten media session, which is why I said I had no idea. So now he has flip-flopped on both sides over whether he knew Zach Smith, his former receivers coach, in fact, had multiple incidents with Courtney Smith, his now ex-wife. My question to you is, what kind of credibility does Urban Meyer now have in this? He's on administrative leave. They're investigating this. The police is involved. When you flip-flop stories like that.
Well, when you say flip-flop, he didn't flip-flop it to the same authority. For example, if he told the police story one and then story two, that's a big problem. But here, his statement is, look, I reported it to the proper people, but on the other hand, since I don't believe it, I don't have to be talking about it to the press. That's a different story. And then what happens is, you know, you drill down into Title IX and you say, well, there are some defenses here too. One of them is that Title IX basically protects the students and the employees of the school. One of his, and again, these are technical arguments that a defense attorney would make, not talking about the right or the wrong of the act. And he would say, well, wait a minute, she was the wife and then ex-wife. She's not covered by Title IX, and I don't have to do that. But what he's saying is, look, I made the statement, but you can make a statement and say, here's what I heard, but I don't believe it, or here's what I heard and it's uncorroborated. That's what he's trying to do here.
Is it not covered by Title IX? Because not only that, but Shelley Meyer, Urban's wife, works for the university, and she also knew of this domestic violence that was going on. She also did not report it. Aren't those both violations of Title IX? Well,
again, Title IX is geared up to protect, but here it's who's covered, who's a protected class, and here it's to protect basically students and employees, not the estranged spouse or the ex-spouse. That would be the technical way out of it.
So if you're the defense attorney for Urban Meyer, and it's before he even goes out there in front of the press, would you have advised him just to say no comment about
that? Would have been much better. Yeah. That's the best thing, no comment. And then somebody doesn't say, well, you said this and you said that. That would have been better.
But in a court of law, it doesn't matter what he's told the media. It's only when you're talking to law enforcement.
Well, he wasn't under oath or anything like that. So basically, he chose a path which I'm sure if he's questioning, he said, well, he didn't want to be embarrassed by that or cause embarrassment. And especially if he said, well, I don't believe it, but somebody said it, and I think they were lying to me. Why should I spread that out in the media where I did what I had to? I reported to the school, even though I didn't believe it.
I'm sorry.
If it was reported to the school, as Urban Meyer said, he reported it, isn't the school then required to investigate at that point in time in 2015? So the fact that they have never contacted Courtney Smith,
but there has to be evidence.
Flag,
there has to be evidence that showed that he did report it, though.
First of all, there has to be evidence showing he reported, and then you say, well, okay, what do you have on that? Was it something he said verbally? Did he send an email? How did he do it? And that's one of the things his lawyer is working on, because if he said, oh, I told somebody, that's a different story.
Right. And then they say, no, you didn't. Because at this point, it's going to come down to, if the school didn't follow through and investigate, then it's either Urban Meyer didn't report it, or they are in the wrong because they also didn't do anything about it.
Or their lawyer says that they believed it to be so incredible. For example, suppose the accuser said, he came over Saturday night and choked me. And then you say, well, the team was in a city on the other side of the country, and we were all having dinner Saturday night, waiting the game we're going to play the next day. If you had that information, say, well, that's so incredible, such a lie. I have, all these witnesses that I wouldn't go forward. And they talk about, credible, reasonable, and also in Title IX they use the word certain. So it's not just, well, so quite black and white. There's room for them to argue. And that's basically what lawyers do. So, oh, here's what that really means.
What about the fact that now they're investigating and they've yet to interview Zach Smith, who is the receivers coach, or Courtney Smith? Neither have been approached by this group that's investigating right now. And the case was closed. There were no charges actually filed. So the police
have
been.
Deal.
Yeah. How big of a deal is that? That the fact that there's no public record out there because no charges were filed. So we don't know the details. We know police was called to the home in 2015.
And as a defense attorney, what I would say is that's a big indication, because normally today the police really err on the side of the victim. So the police who at least theoretically, are independent. They make an investigation, and they found there was nothing to make a further investigation. That in of itself says, look, the allegations were not credible. It's already been investigated. It didn't happen.
So that's Urban Meyer's maybe part of his defense.
I'm waiting for him to call me.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that's going to be coming out about that. So hopefully when you join us next time, you can tell us a little more. But let's pivot here for a second to our guy Colin Kaepernick, who his name was scrubbed from a song that was put into an EA Sports Madden game just recently. They apologized. A big mistake. We meant to have his name in there. It was just a mistake, oversight. Well, where's the legal action that can be taken in this? Who has the right? Does EA have the right to take it out of the game once they purchase the song to put in their game?
Well, what happened here is the writers of the song retained the ability to make the final decision. And they said, look, okay, take out the curse words. That's fine. You can make some other changes, move things around. But they went ahead and kept the final say. And they said, look, they don't want that out. They look at him as a hero. So what you have here is you say, well, wait a minute, it's an allegation that, oh, somebody made a mistake. Of course, there was a little problem with Colin being out last year, too. But somebody made another mistake.
Right.
And here you have it. And then what happens for the case and the collusion, what the big deal is if it were truly a mistake, that's no problem. If one person in the NFL called up and said he shouldn't be in, that's okay, because collusion requires more than one. If every owner individually called the NFL and say, you tell that EA that you keep him out of there, that's okay. It would be a problem if two owners called up and said, hi, we talked about this and we're in agreement and the two of us want you to keep him out. That's where it would be. But if Colin wants to prove that, then he'll go depose everybody and see who said what to whom. But that's kind of a bit of a stretch.
Right.
Here's another interesting thing. Nessa, who is a DJ in New York and the girlfriend of Colin Kaepernick, she tweeted at EA Madden Sports saying that it wasn't a screw-up because they did it 2 consecutive years in a row. They scrubbed Colin Kaepernick's name from a different song, Bars of Soap apparently, and then this year on Big Bank. So 2 years in a row, they have chosen to take Kaepernick's name out of an NFL game, the NFL property as well in regards to the Madden game. Does that add more and more fuel to this collusion case? Because it sure seems like this has been
If I were the defense attorney, again, collusion requires people to agree on that. Suppose it were a different player who beat up his wife but was reinstated to the team, and the company said, we don't want a guy like that in the game, and took him out. Would anybody have a problem with that? Probably not. So even if somebody said, you know what, he's causing upset in the fans, maybe people won't buy the game, or they don't want their kids to see this, and they made a business decision, that's fine. The big deal is the collusion. It's like in other areas of the criminal law, you deal with conspiracy. So it's fine to do it, to make that editing. It's not fine if the guy's got the. That's what Colin is trying to prove.
They still, though, have to get permission from the songwriters, right?
It depends. Well, it depends what they agreed to. In this particular contract, the writers of the song agreed to have the final say. But if the writers of the song said you can do whatever you want with it, then they could do whatever they want with it, and that's fine.
All right, Steve. Always a
pleasure. Time goes so quickly, guys.
Legal stuff down.
Next time we'll ask you about taxes.
Oh, my favorite.
I was looking for a tax
you're getting me really excited. You know what taxes do to me?
You know who pays a lot of taxes? Kevin Durant.
Not our clients.
He makes a lot of money.
Not our clients.
He's also apparently the greatest scorer of all time, according to one of his teammates. We'll talk about that next.